Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today we are looking at the ship that's currently in the Blitz Pass. The Indian Navy Commonwealth ship, Tier 6 Tier 6 Premium Cruiser, the Mysore. Now, this ship, technically is a Fiji class light cruiser. So she didn't start out like that. She started out as HMS Nigeria in the Second World War, built for the British Navy, and she managed to survive the war. Did get a bit of a refit. So what they did was chop the X turret off. The turrets are labeled A and B for the two forward, and X and Y for the rear turrets. So the X turret would be the third turret for the front. So that got removed, and instead she got a bunch of 40mm pom-poms installed, and did get a bit of a refit that way. In 1954, she was actually sold to the now independent nation of India and became the second cruiser in the Indian Navy. And she was actually in service until 1985, mostly as a flagship of the Western Fleet. And she was not directly involved, but was actually I think the controlling ship or the command ship of Operation Trident, the attack of the Indian Navy on the Pakistani port of Karachi, where they pulled off a very, very impressive naval action with mostly surface-to-surface missiles, which was quite new at the time, and were able to sink and destroy a fair amount of infrastructure without suffering any losses whatsoever by themselves. Then she was eventually decommissioned in the mid-80s. Now, so much for the, positive parts. I don't know for sure, but I would assume that this is a ship that is, having a certain patriotic value for the Indian Navy, given her role and given that she was one of the first cruisers that was actually part, and all these kind of things. A lot of officers, commanding officers, were gaining their experience on that ship. So what do we have in game? Well, we have a Fiji class light cruiser at Tier 6. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually compare her, because the details and the description is unfortunately incorrect, because she is described with four triple turrets, which of course she only has 3 of them, because the X turret, as mentioned, and you can see it here, that's where the 40mm AA is sitting, where the turret used to sit on the Fiji. Then again, she's a Tier 6. So how does she compare? Let's compare her to the Fiji to begin with, because, very similar class. Now, the Mysore gets fuel smokes instead of the proper smokes that you would get on the Fiji. The Mysore also gets a rapid reload. But she doesn't get is single fire torpedoes. So the Fiji, obviously being a Tier 7 ship, it has ever so slightly more hit points, but they're reasonably close to each other in terms of maneuverability. Fiji is a bit better in the engines. And yeah, don't let that fool you. It's not 4x3, it's 3x3 150mm guns, but effectively they're the same guns on the Fiji, only that they have a marginally longer range and they do a little bit more damage. And which is common for the British light cruiser line, but uncommon for the premium cruisers, she only gets the armor-piercing shells. Now here comes the next surprise. The Mysore actually doesn't have torpedoes. So that's incorrect. The real Mysore definitely had torpedoes. I'm not sure what happened here, but by getting down tier to Tier 6, apparently the Indian Navy has managed to mislay her torpedoes, in Wargaming's opinion, and they're not there anymore. The other thing is that the Mysore actually has a worse AA than the Fiji, which is honestly making me a little bit grumpy, because the whole purpose that they ripped off the X turret was to replace it with anti-aircraft guns. And this is a 1954 to 1957 refit versus a World War II design ship. Why does it have worse AA? Okay, I get it, it's a tier 6, but still. She does get ever so slightly better concealment, but for all intents and purposes, it's about the same. The other thing that she doesn't get is the defensive AA skill. So, what gives? Let's compare her to the Leander, to the actual tier 6 light cruiser on the British tech tree line. Obviously, the Leander gets torpedoes, which the Mysore, as we have established, does not. The Leander is significantly more maneuverable than this thing. And while she only gets 8 guns, they are very comparable because they're effectively the same guns that you would get also on the Fiji. It's only that she only gets 8 of them. So the Mysore has 1 more gun than the Leander. In return, the Leander has 2 quad launches of torpedoes. Now the Mysore would have gotten 2 triple launches, but still. The AA is comparable because the Leander also doesn't get the defensive AA skill. The Leander gets better concealment. Let's lastly compare the Mysore to the HMAS Perth, the other tier 6 Commonwealth ship here. And the Perth also gets the fuel smoke. But yeah, other than that, the Perth is noticeably more maneuverable. She once again gets kind of the Leander's guns, but the Perth actually gets high explosive. And the Perth gets also torpedoes. And a better concealment. So, what do we have here? And I have to say, I'm a little bit grumpy about what has been done to the historic ship, because especially with ships that are existing or have been existing, and people have emotional connections or national pride of some sorts about, having taken liberties with these ships, I'm not too happy about that, especially if it's so glaringly obvious, like removing the torpedoes, which very much have been present on the ship as far as I can tell, and actually making the AA worse. So, all right, let's take a look at the setup. What can we do in terms of elite bonus? We can either give her more hit points, a bit more AA damage, and turret traverse speed, or we can get the 20% turret traverse speed, which is effectively the same as the module. Now, given that she doesn't have any torpedoes, you probably want the 20% traverse speed, because that actually allows you, because the turret traverse isn't great to begin with. I think I've got it up to, where are we at now? Yeah, it's 10.8, so we were at kind of 9% or something. That allows us to put the main battery mod 2 in the first slot, because this is a gunboat, because she literally doesn't have anything else to shoot with. So you kind of want, also most of her firepower is now concentrated forward because the X turret's gone. So you kind of do want to put everything in the guns that you possibly can. Propulsion mod in 2 because you're still a very light cruiser and you need to get out of dodge quickly. And steering in slot 3 because she doesn't have the Leander's concealment. So running a concealment build here for like an early destroyer killer, given that she doesn't have any torpedoes, isn't really sensible either. So that's that. I have put I've had a tier 7 commander around, so I've put one in, but be the same story otherwise. You do want underwater protection and torpedo alert, artillery maintenance, victorious charge, because you don't get the air defense expert, which means you can't use the battlefield support, which is something you may want to be doing on the Perth, because she does get a hydro, but this ship does not. So once again, it's also not a captain trainer. I have put fire supremacy in, which is something that you wouldn't want on the other ships, because I do want a third rapid reload because it's all about the guns. And generalist here because we don't have a hydro, we can't set fires or floods. And I have the fully prepared here. You might want the Mistweaver, maybe. It's a fuel smoke, so it's not going to make a huge difference. And then down the road, definitely the Master Reloader to get a bit more duration out of the rapid reload. But then again, it's a rapid reload 1, so it's going to get your reload down from where we are at right now. We are at base reload somewhere around 7 seconds to maybe 6 seconds or something. So it's not a huge difference, right? You can put a historical camo on if you want, if you're so inclined. It's a tier 6, it's not super expensive, which gives you a bit more hit points, which gives you a bit more range, and gives you large caliber AA range and torpedo damage reduction, none of which is particularly useful. First of all, it doesn't give her concealment. Torpedo damage reduction is irrelevant, 6%. Large caliber AA range is cute, but also doesn't compensate for the fact that she has worse AA than the Fiji, and actually doesn't have a defensive AA skill. Main battery firing range is useless, and hit points are okay. So you wouldn't need that. Right, as you can probably tell from my tone, I was not overly impressed by this ship. So let me show you around, and we'll just do one round in that ship. We are in a bottom tier battle, and we're up against Ranger, Colorado, Brooklyn, Budyoni, Aka, and Farragut. So, what are you in this thing? Well, there isn't really a role for this thing. I mean, you're reasonably effective against destroyers, but you don't have any torpedoes, so you have to play at range. You don't also have any utility, no radars, no sonars, nothing. Battleships, you'll be doing okay damage against. Cruisers, you'll be doing okay damage against. You're not an NAA ship either. Which means we're going to play the ship at range, because this seems to be the only thing that she's actually kind of designed for. And in this map, I'm actually going to head over for B-Cup. I'm calling it out for my team. I don't know, to either tell them that I'm going there or to get them to maybe follow along. But you know, that's completely their decision. And it looks like the Yudachi on our side isn't going to, which is okay. I mean, there's a carrier, and the carrier scouts middle, because the carrier assumes that one of us goes middle. So maybe the Yudachi's decision wasn't actually that bad to go there. Yeah, I'm not an AA cruiser, so there's precious little I can do about these airplanes. And I'm air spotted now, but I also have an Akatsuki, so let's get some shots out and just you know, scare him a little bit, tell him that he is spotted and under fire. And then I don't know if the carrier going for me? Yeah, I think the carrier is going for me. I mean, the carrier has been idling these torpedo planes over myself and the battleship for the last 15 seconds, and had only lost one of them. So that probably tells you what you need to know. Anyway, B doesn't look to be contested, so we're going to head over to B and just make ourselves scarce here and see that we're not getting shot at by anything battleship-like. And yeah, bounce a couple of shells off the Colorado, but I mean, the guns work. It's the same thing that you have in a Leander or in a Fiji. The difference being, obviously, that if you're in a Leander, you have torpedoes, but you don't in this thing. So let's pop the first rapid reload and just get a couple of shells out. I mean, we're doing not a huge amount of damage, but we're helping, and we're capping. The other thing that you might notice is that the dispersion is absolutely atrocious. I'm getting 3 or 4 shells out of my 9 on top, which, well, 5 maybe. Once the Colorado starts broadsiding, which isn't grand. Okay, there's a battleship on my right, battleship on my left, but they're not particularly interested in me. So I am trying to actually hit the bow section of the Colorado, to get the full penetrations and to actually start doing some damage. There's the Ranger as well, so yeah, I want to kind of kill that Colorado first. Right now, no one's shooting at me, and it looks like the Yudachi is actually they're scared of the Yudachi, so no one's actually coming in. And the shells aren't bad, right? Don't get me wrong. Good luck trying to hit the Akatsuki from there. I'm just gonna loop around here. It's just that you just don't have the you don't necessarily have the damage output. All right, now they're all clustered up there, and I think the Yudachi torps are just going underneath that Aka and are hitting both the Colorado and the Ranger, and maybe the Budyoni behind them as well. So they're all nice and clustered up here, so while no one's shooting at me, I'm going to start opening up at the Yudachi, at the Akatsuki there, and Colorado looks like he's going to be dead and flooding out. We've got the Budyoni as well, so well, the Budyoni has noticed me, so we are going to, and the carrier apparently as well, so we are going to pull back a little bit and just, you know, go take some shots. Once again, very lightly armored cruiser, doesn't have a huge amount of health. I am out of torpedo range of the Budyoni, but the Budyoni has some really nasty guns on it, so we don't necessarily want to get too close to that thing. We just want to shoot at it from a distance and somewhat be useful to our team. Now, we're halfway through the battle and I've done about 25,000 points of damage. So if I keep that up, I might end up with 50,000 points of damage, which is not terrible for a tier 6 game, but that's probably about the maximum of what I can actually achieve with this thing. Because, well, once again, she doesn't have any torpedoes, she can't set any fires, so dealing with battleships is going to take a while. And I'm getting shot at from the right, so there's that other cruiser. But I do kind of want to do something about the Akatsuki over there if I need to. So let's just pop our smoke just in case, just so we can get peacefully around here. Maybe finish off that Ranger. No, Ranger's dead anyway. He's going to run into Ulachi Torps. So, okay, who's that shooting at me there? Oh, Brooklyn. Hello. Okay, Brooklyn is a problem. No, Brooklyn is not a problem because he's shooting IHE at me. So as long as he doesn't shoot armor piercing, I don't really care. And he's dead anyway. So we've got Budyoni shooting at me from the rear. The carrier is still being pesky with his last remaining planes, even though he's already dead. But let's just finish off that Brooklyn, and then we can go and chase down the rest of them. Alright, that's that thing down. And then we can go and chase after whatever that was down there. But that's why it's just 2 destroyers left and that Budyoni. So yeah, we'll go and just chase after them. But this battle has been decided at this point. So what really are the capabilities of this ship? There aren't many. You could think that with improved range and with faster reloading guns, you could be firing from long range, which you can. And the shells are not terrible. They are somewhat capable of actually penetrating battleship deck armor. The problem is that the dispersion is dreadful. And obviously, more often than not, if half of your shells are hitting the belt armor and only 2 or 3 make it into the deck, and you get 1 or 2 full pens, your salvos are not going to do a huge amount of damage, and you can't set any fires. She's reasonably useful against cruisers, although once again she is struggling with the absence of torpedoes, which means that you have to keep your range, which means that a navigating cruiser like that Budyoni over there just easily dodges between the, well, Budyoni-sized holes in my dispersion. And as you see, all these shells are missing. Okay, now he's too far away because he's running away, but still, you know what I mean. You could think that ship might work bow in, but she kind of has a problem of, at long range, the things she can hit, she can't really damage very easily, and the things she could damage very easily, she can't really hit. She can't brawl because of the lack of torpedoes. She can't set fires because of the lack of HE. She can't defend against airplanes because the absence of the IFHEs, of the defensive AA skill. Yeah, this isn't a good ship. Sorry to say, and it, once again, it really bothers me because we don't get many Indian ships, and especially one that has a bit of a reputation. You would have really thought that the ship would have been, you know, treated better. Let me put it that way. So, I mean, you can still do some damage, right? But really, if you want a tier 6 light cruiser, grab yourself a Leander. That's not a bad ship. You can have a Nuremberg or an Admiral Makarov if you want a premium. That's a Nuremberg as well. Hell, you could even get a Dallas. The Dallas can set no fires in this thing. 1 maybe. But tier 6 is not short of good light cruisers. And I'm not including Dallas there. But tier 6 is not short of good light cruisers. And this isn't one of them. I think she, in order to be even somewhat viable, the Camo is useless. In order to be even somewhat viable, she would have to be buffed and given either the HE shells that you normally find on tier 6 light cruisers, on premium tier 6 light cruisers of the British, the more British description, or she would have to be given her torpedoes back, which would have been historically more accurate, or give her a better AA on the small caliber AA, because yeah, any of those things. But as it stands, this is not a ship I would recommend. So if you want to have a Blitz pass purely for the resources and you take the ship for the slot, be my guest. Just know that if you want it for the ship, you do have to be a collector or a big fan of this ship, and then probably not be too disappointed if she doesn't shine in-game. So yeah, that's that. And that's it for me today. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.